Hello friends. I did fall down and all the way to my back, like the hard fall. So this is the hardest climb that we'll have. This is just a little steeper than Osobrero. I am right now driving to meet a hiking partner, Kevin, who is going to join me, and there's going to be about 5 of us that will go on the Appalachian Trail for about a week. We're going to actually visit a hiker festival called Trail Days. We're going to spend a couple days at this festival just hanging out and getting to know some folks, and then we're going to hike northbound from Damascus, Virginia for about 7 days. Hi there. So as I've come back, I decided that we're going to focus most of the content that I've collected from our trip into just 2 videos. So this video, I'm really going to focus on the trail itself of Appalachian Trail and what the path is like and what the logistics are like and that kind of a thing. And then I'm going to have a part 2 to this video where I really focus in on the relationships, because Camino relationships are such a big aspect of why that pilgrimage is so important and so valuable to me. I'm going to spend a second video to kind of talk about how those relationship dynamics work. So tune in. If you would click the like button on this will send it out and show other folks who are interested in Camino things, give them a chance to see this, and click subscribe if you'd like to check out that other video or lots of other videos on this channel to help you prepare for Camino de Santiago. I should say, if there's anything that I think I wish I would have said as I was walking the path that I probably didn't say enough until really at the end of this video, was to say about how much difference it makes that Camino de Santiago is not just a hiking path, but is a spiritual pilgrimage, because really Appalachian Trail misses a lot of that, and Camino is really about the pilgrimage more than it's about the walking and the trail. But in this video I'm going to focus a lot more on the trail itself, so hopefully you can kind of get a sense for that by the end. I'd love for you to put in the comments if you could talk about how you see a difference between Camino and typical kinds of hiking, because it's not exactly like other kinds of hiking when you're walking through these churches and these historic towns, and the kind of cultural piece and the spiritual piece of Camino. So I'd love for you to put in the comments some of the differences that you see between Camino de Santiago and a trail like this Appalachian Trail. Well, I am about 8 miles into day 1. We got about 2 miles up the hill to the shelter. This next 2 miles is really steep. It's about, I don't know about really steep, it's 900 feet of elevation, about 2 miles. So that's pretty good elevation, lots of switchbacks and so on. I'd say this first day has been comparable to some things I've done on Appalachian Trail, on Camino. Certainly has not been harder than things that I've done there, but so far this is just a warm-up day. Really our hardest days coming in a couple days. You know, we've met a couple people on the trail. I'd say there's not a lot of conversation and relationship that's happening there, so that's kind of a disappointment for me, knowing that a lot of the reason that I like to walk Camino is those relationships, but haven't had a lot of that so far. But hopefully tonight at the shelter, when we are around some other hikers for a longer period of time, maybe we'll get a chance to know some of those folks. You can see the sign here behind me, and it says 6 miles to Damascus, but once you get to Damascus, it's about 2 miles before we started into the woods. So it's about 8 miles that we walked so far. So anyway, I'll give some more updates, and look forward to telling you about how this climb went up to the shelter. Well, hello there friends. I didn't make a kind of a vlog report in yesterday after I climbed that little short hill at the end of the day on day 1, but on that day 1 climb I did fall down and all the way to my back, like
the hard fall, but fortunately I landed on my pack and didn't hurt anything. But that climb wasn't too bad. It certainly was tiring at the end of the day, but it wasn't too bad. And then yesterday we had an amazing day. It was about 10 miles. A lot of downhill. We had certainly had some climbs and stuff, but it was a lot of downhill, and the cumulative was downhill for sure. So that felt pretty good. And we walked about 10 miles and ended at a campsite along the trail right at the base of the mountain that I'm climbing right now. And that was a good night. We got in about 6 o'clock or so. Had met a guy that Onesimus, hope maybe Onesimus will, I don't think he ever watches YouTube, but Onesimus is the trail name of the guy who was handing out ice cream and soda and beer. So I had an ice cream sandwich from him and chatted with him for a while. And you know, he's a retired guy that lives out of his RV and just goes up and down the Appalachian Trail. And when he's on the trail, he gives folks some treats, does some trail magic. And so maybe Anespis will see this or at least hear about it. But it was a pretty good walk yesterday. Today we're gonna do about 9.5 miles, I think it is. This first 2.5 miles is 1,500 feet of elevation. So this is the hardest climb that we'll have. For those of you who are Camino people, O Sombrero, as I recall, is about 1,200 feet in about, I think it's about 3 miles. And this is about 1,500 feet in 1,500 feet and a little over 2 miles. So this is just a little steeper than O Sombrero and a little shorter. So that's what I'm doing now. I've gotten off a good start. I'm feeling pretty good, actually. I got my ibuprofen, a little breakfast, and then one of the things, you know, there's very little services as far as, well, phone service first of all, but you know, you don't come across a lot of places to get food and stuff, so you end up carrying food for 4 or 5 days. But we have one of the other hikers, Mary, another pastor that's on this trip with us. She had to come late because of some other commitments, and she's actually going to meet us at the top of the hill and bring breakfast to us, and then she'll start hiking from there. So I got a little motivation this morning to get up the hill. Yeah, so good start to the walk, and I'll give you a report as we get to the shelter. The next day, actually really starting today, and then the next 2 days are in the Grayson Highlands, which is supposed to be just an amazing section of trail. It's where the wild ponies are and so on and so forth. So really looking forward to that, and looking forward to being able to tell you what's going on. So last night we stayed on top of the Grayson Highlands where the famous ponies are. Got to see the pattern encounter with ponies this morning. A few of them came right into our little tent site, so that was kind of fun. But I stayed at 5,000 feet, and it was kind of cool to be up here and have the clouds rolling in at the same level as you and so on. But good night last night. We had a pretty nice walk yesterday. Today we're doing about 12 miles, mostly downhill, and some of it's really flat across these highlands. It's beautiful, beautiful land up here. In fact, I'll turn around. It's gonna probably mess up our exposure a little bit, but I can kind of show you the area behind me. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, pretty amazing view out here, and just really enjoying today. It's one of the good days when you're out hiking. Yesterday we got a lot of rain. I told you I was going to go up that steep section at the beginning of the day. It ended up not being as bad as I thought. And then we got to the top and had a good walk the rest of the day and really had a great time. So anyway, we're at the top of Grayson Highlands now, walking kind of across the mountaintops, and then I'm going to drop down into a little gap later today. And today we end at our car. We have our car planted, one of our cars planted along the trail, and so we may get to go out and get some burgers or pizza or something tonight before we then walk past the car and come back to it later. But anyway, I'll hopefully give you some footage from camp. Peace. There you go, there you go. So one of the things that might be interesting is to talk just about the terrain itself. Camino is not really a wilderness walk like AT is. It's not as physically challenging as the AT is. And of course, those of you that have been on Camino know that there's a physical challenge to it, without a doubt. But it's certainly not intended to be primarily about the physical challenge. But AT's pretty tough. I would say we walked through the Grayson Highlands in Virginia yesterday, and we walked about 12 miles, and the terrain was incredibly difficult. Rock scrambles, I'll show you some images of those. Some rock scrambles, some really tough, just up and down through pretty technical hiking, watch every step kind of thing. And you know, I would say there's some of that on the downhill out of down into Molina Seca on Camino Frances, but the rest of Camino Frances, oh, maybe Alto del Perdón on the way down from there, but the rest of Camino Frances is not really about that. It's much more walking on a dirt path. In fact, if you see, you maybe will see the trail there. This little kind of single footpath wide trail is what most of the AT has been, for us at least, which is quite different than Camino too. So Camino is not about the trail. It is, but it's about walking. It's about a spiritual pilgrimage, and AT is absolutely about human being versus trail. And so it has been a challenge for sure. Not unbearable in the part that we're in Southern Virginia, but certainly a difficult challenge anyway. Well, we are about 2 miles from the place where we're gonna pull out of the AT. We'll have completed 60 miles on trail over the course of 7 days, but 2 of those days were kind of half days. But it's been a good trip overall. I think the hiking on the AT is certainly reasonable. I mean, it's not incredibly easy. It's definitely more physically challenging than being on Camino, but it also is nothing about it is particularly difficult. I think, at least not in the area that we're in Virginia. I know that there are sections that are harder for sure, but where we are, it's been not that challenging, which I think, I mean, it's hard enough to make sweat for sure, but I think, you know, aside from just comparing the hiking, as I end this, I think I can definitely say that I'm more excited about being on trail on Camino, and I get to do that because this is the spirituality of a pilgrimage like Camino is certainly not there in this. I think people are discovering themselves, and there's some good things happening on trail for sure. Relationships are important here. People are learning a lot about themselves, but it's just not as intentional as folks are when they're walking Camino. So I certainly have an appreciation for what this is about, but for me, it's certainly much more. I greatly prefer Camino. I will say, as I am filming this, I just learned yesterday that that Camino will be open to vaccinated pilgrims as of June 7th, I think it is. And so I have already made space in my calendar for July 12 until probably 27th or something like that, so that I can go and walk a section of the Meseta, which I don't know what I'm thinking about that, walking Meseta in July. But there's a section of Camino that I've not been on from Logroño to Leon of Camino Frances, and I'm excited about going and getting to walk part of that. But also excited about being in Santiago. I already have a bed reserved in Santiago for July 25th and the day before, I think. So hopefully you will tune in for those videos, because I'm looking forward to vlogging from there. Not something I normally do for this channel, but will when I'm on Camino this year. So anyway, as I finish up this AT, I'm thankful for the time away. I'm thankful for a chance to really just experience something different in hiking. But I will certainly be glad to be back on Camino, which just seems to be where I belong. Buen Camino.